Dumelang. Welcome to yet another episode of Re Tsene with Pretoria psychologist. Kalibito, ke nna Kamogelo wa Gakwapa, and today I'm going to be talking about self-introspection. What does it mean to self-introspect? Well, self-introspection simply means the ability to witness and evaluate our own cognitive, emotional, and behavioral processes. In layman terms, it actually means reflective awareness. The ability to actually reflect on your own actions, being aware of the things that you do, the things, how you think, your past patterns, situations that you found yourself in, that you had a hand in. One of the things that we do when we self-introspect is actually being honest with ourselves. We often find ourselves in situations where we feel like things are beyond our control, or we blame others for how situations turn out, or how the results actually, turned out, without realizing the fact that we also have a role to play in situations turning out like that. An example would be maybe a relationship ending. Oftentimes, it's easy for us to blame the other person. It's easy for us to look at what the other person has done wrong, but we fail to actually look at ourselves and realize the part that we played in the relationship ending. It could be in a job environment, for example, where maybe you get fired or you find yourself in a very tricky situation. And it's easy to actually put the blame on someone else. It's easy to say that A, B, C, and D happened and it wasn't my fault. It's easy to actually adopt the victim mentality than actually taking accountability and saying to myself, you know what, I'm going to sit and think about what happened and actually be accountable for every action that I found that has happened in my life. So after being honest with yourself, it's very imperative that you also take accountability. A lot of times as people, we don't take accountability. We always play the victim. And that is a very toxic trait that any individual can actually carry or have. So taking accountability also shows that you had enough time to look at your actions and learn from your mistakes and see what you could have actually done right. So it's very important that in every situation that you find yourself in, no matter how small the circumstance could be, that you actually hold yourself accountable so you can actually grow as well and develop healthy and strong relationships with people. One of the things that I personally do when I self-introspect is self-isolate. I know it sounds a bit tricky to do, and one might say, but why would you want to find yourself in a space where you're by yourself? It's depressing, you might find yourself having excruciating thoughts. That's not the case. Sometimes spending time with yourself is very important because you get to reflect on the things that have happened to you, your surroundings, the people in your life as well. Because self-introspection actually helps you to navigate towards, your life and the things that are happening to you. So when you self-isolate, it helps with that because you are in a space where you're only hearing your own thoughts and no one else's thoughts. You're not hearing anyone's voice to actually influence how you see life. It's just you and your inner being and God. So self-isolation is very important. There's so many things that you can do when you self-isolate. For example, I reflect. I know the hardest conversation to have is with yourself. It's very hard. It can be very easy to lie to people or even lie to yourself to a point where you actually end up believing your own lie. But deep down in your heart of hearts, you know that that is not true. So it's very important that we get over that fear of having hard conversations with ourselves so we can actually be the best version of ourselves. So self-isolation actually helps with that. I journal when I self-isolate, because I get to also know a bit more about myself. I get to learn, my weaknesses, my strengths, things that I'm not comfortable with. And it gets easier for me to actually set boundaries, for myself and for other people as well. So it actually helps a lot. And I believe that when you self-isolate and self-introspect, you are able to actually deal with your traumas as well. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we don't even understand how we even got here. But when you actually get to a point where you reflect on the circumstances or the situation, it's easy for you to understand how you even got there in the first place. So traumas are there, traumas are real. We all have traumas, even me included. And when you self-isolate, it helps to actually deal with those traumas, those unresolved issues that you have. That anger that you don't know where it comes from. it will be easy for you to actually deal with that and understand, at the core of cause, where it actually comes from, unpacking it as well. Childhood trauma is real, and I have spoken about it before. So a lot of us go, we move forward with life, not actually realizing the impact that undealt trauma or unresolved issues actually plays in our lives on a daily basis. Sometimes, the things that you do or the choices that you make are a result of your traumas, and you might not be aware. And that might actually create, the toxic environment for you and the people that are around you. So it's very imperative that you deal and confront your traumas so you can be very healthy, and be the best version of yourself, like I said. And one of the ways in which you deal with the traumas is accepting and confronting what has happened to you. There are some things that have happened, obviously, that you had no control over. And there are some things that you played a role in, which is very important to actually take accountability for. So, accepting what you cannot change, accepting the things that have happened to you is one step of actually dealing with your traumas. And understanding that there is nothing that you can do about it now, but what you do after that has happened is what's most important. Oftentimes I always say that, you are not responsible for other people's actions, but you are responsible for how you actually act and behave, towards people's actions. So it's very important that you accept what has happened to you so you can actually, move on with life. And after accepting, it's very important that you forgive. Not only the people, that have hurt you, but also yourself. Oftentimes, when we talk about forgiveness, we base it on the other person, but we don't understand that it should actually start with us. Forgiving yourself as well, it's very important that you forgive yourself for things that you had no control over, like I said earlier, the things that you did as well. Forgive yourself so you can actually be healthy as well. And finally, let go. When you let go, it feels like there's a huge burden that has been lifted off your shoulders, and you get to actually see life from a different perspective and, see your surroundings, even clearer. The sky actually becomes blue and not purple anymore. When you let go, you actually set yourself free, and you welcome a new chapter in your life. You welcome new things in your life. Sometimes we are trapping ourselves, with our own actions and our own thoughts, and the mind is very powerful. There is nothing as powerful as the mind. So if we can actually fight and win the battle over the mind, then we can be our higher self and the healthiest that we can ever be. So when you self-isolate, it actually helps with that. And also try to not dwell on the negative. Try to not find yourself in a space where you allow yourself to be depressed. Depression has very various subtopics under it, or there's a lot of things that can actually cause depression as well. But also, when you allow yourself to dwell in the negative, then you are actually opening a door for you to actually be depressed. And once you open that door, it gets very hard to actually get out of that space. So isolate in a very healthy way. I know it can be scary. I know it can be very daunting. I know it can be very intimidating, but you can do it. I know you are capable of doing it. So it's very important that we self-introspect in our lives, in each and every situation that we find ourselves in, whether small or big. Self-introspect so you can be the higher version and the better version of you. Thank you so much for joining us on another episode of Re Tsene with Psychologist. Bye.